Hi everyone, welcome back to another day in the Western Centurion garage for my latest update. Now I suppose you're all wondering what I've been up to since it's been a week. Was it just over a week? No, probably about a week since my last update, and how I progressed. Because I suppose you think that I've done absolutely loads, maybe nearly finished the garage. But as I'm sure, as you can see behind me, I haven't even got to this wall yet, which was originally my plan, or shall we say, my time scale. So because that's not done, you can see that I'm way behind schedule. And why am I behind schedule? Well, it's all to do with a comment left by one of my subscribers, Graham Carter. And Graham, thank you mate, you were spot on with what you said, and I'm so glad you did, because even though I've spent a lot of time putting my error right, making it right, if you hadn't said anything it would have been a lot more painful than it already was. But yeah, Graham pointed out that I'd done the installation wrong on the wall, but I gather one thing he hadn't seen was I'd done the installation the same on the ceiling as well. So what I'd done was that I'd put the insulation against the wall and then the battening against the insulation, which was wrong, because that would have meant that I would have got damp behind the insulation, which is totally against the whole reason me doing the battening and the insulation in the first place. So as soon as I read Graham's comment, that first day I got home from work, got in the garage and started stripping it all down again. So I took all the downlighters out, I took the ply off the ceiling, took all that insulation out, and I redid it all. Now with the ceiling it was a good thing as well. I'll show you why when I take you around the garage, show you what I've done. But it meant that I could do it a little bit better, because after I put the plywood up I noticed some things weren't quite right. I wasn't quite happy with it. So yeah, I had to put some battening up on the joist for the ceiling. Was it 1 inch by 1.5 inch I think. So I put the battening up near the roof, or up to the roof, and secured that to the battening. That then gave me an inch clearance. So when I pushed the insulation up, I had an inch clearance between the insulation and the roof itself to have a good airflow going up and down there, which is very important, because I have to say that when I went to take the insulation down in the first place, it had been a hot day, and the amount of heat that hit me when I pulled that first piece of insulation down, and not only was it hot, but the wood was damp to the touch. So that within 6 months I think the roof would have rotted out if I hadn't done that. So you see comments that I left, like what Graham left, absolutely fabulous. I'll tell you, that was a diamond of a comment, and it saved me a lot of headaches in the future. So yeah, I've done that now. So all the insulation's up, I've got the ply back up, and I've got the lights back in place. I'll tell you about the wall when I go around and show you. But yeah, I was watching a video this morning, was it John of the LNER86 channel. Now he's building his layout in his shed. So yeah, John LNER86 channel, pop over and have a look. He's pretty much just starting it, and he's doing his shed out as well. Gotta love his videos, they're all funny and entertaining. And in the one I watched this morning, he said that I think it was to do with the lighting, or something to do with the wiring anyway in the shed, and it got the wires crossed over. So when he switched it on, it tripped the fuse in the house and he got told off by his wife. And that did make me laugh, because whilst I was doing redoing the ceiling in here, when I took downlighters out, I left the wires still in the connector boxes from the downlighters. It was a lot easier than taking all the wires out again. All bar one, which is the light just here. Now, I left just the bare wires dangling down, but I turned it all off. I turned it off at the fuse box, and as I got all the plywood down, and I was cutting some wood to size. It was a big length of wood anyway. As I turned round, I swung round with this piece of wood, and the radio went out. I thought nothing of it, so I took the wood somewhere else and I fitted it to where I wanted to fit it. Then the radio come back on. I thought it must be just reception. So I then cut another piece of wood, picked that up, swung round, and the radio went off again. I thought that's a bit bizarre. It's sort of like exactly the same as when I swung around the last time. And it wasn't until a few seconds later that I heard Debbie shout down from the house really, really loud and not happy at all. So I had to go up to the house, and she said, "The trip switch has gone off twice. What are you doing down in the garage?" I thought, "Nothing, I'm just cutting a piece of wood." So put the trip switch back on again, got all the power back in the house. I come down here and I went through the motions of what I was doing. Pretending I was cutting the wood, I lifted the wood up and I swung round. What was happening was the end of the piece of wood was hitting the wire that was dangling down and shorting out the wires. Now, even though it was turned off at the consumer unit, it was still going to earth and trip the house consumer unit. So yeah, I was in the doghouse about that, although I still don't think she actually knows it was me down here, so shh, don't say anything. But yeah, so pop over to John's channel, have a look and enjoy his videos, and help him on his way as well. Okay, so that's about it for me, stood here in front of the camera. What I'll do now, I'll get the camera and I'll take you around so you can see all of what I have done, and it all does actually look pretty much like it did last week after all that hard work. But yeah, so give me a minute, I'll get the camera, and hope you enjoy what's to follow. Okay, so thank you, and see you below. Okay, and here we are. Now you can see the garage and what I have actually done. Pretty similar to it was last week, except I believe I actually have I now have 3 pieces of ply up extra. But if I show you on the wall here, you can see where I've now got the insulation cut to size and fitted between the noggins and the uprights. Now that is the way to do it. I've got the added insulation at the top as well. There's some little gaps like here, so I've got some filler to put in there and around these little gaps here as well. It's really hard to cut it exactly right, but I can get those filled in and that will help as well. For all you people who are thinking about doing the same sort of thing out there, one of the things I found easy, because these noggins aren't exactly straight, although these uprights are pretty much straight, you'll find that when you cut the insulation out, because it's not going to be perfectly square, that you'll have to put the insulation back in the right way that you measured it. So when I measure it up, I always add a mark on the front. For me, it's an arrow, meaning this way forward and that way up, so that I know that once it's cut and I put it in, it's going to be the correct way up and the right way round. And I've done that with all of them. It is a big help, otherwise you end up like whacking or trying to get this piece of insulation to fit, and then discover that it's that actually, if I turn it that way round, it'll fit perfectly. Yeah, so a little lesson there from my pains and sorrows. This piece of ply-in, I've got the holes cut out ready for the double socket in here. The plug for the satellite will go in there, and another box for the satellite connection, and in here will be a connection for the television, and also there'll be a USB port in the same plug. I'm just waiting for those to turn up now. The reason for the USB is the fact that down here, where I've got I'll have 3 sockets down there. I'll also have a cable going through there that will go from the back of the computer, and I can't remember what they called the connections into the back of the computer for the monitor, but anyway, that will come up to there and out through there via a USB, and then from that into the back of the television when it goes up in here, so I can display everything on the computer on the television. That'll just make it easier for when I'm working in here and I can then watch all your YouTube channels whilst I'm doing stuff. Perfect, I think. I got you know, I say about measure twice, cut once. Would you believe I measured this 3 times? And that's about just over ½ an inch or ½ an inch out. That was unbelievable. How did that happen? Because I had the ply down here on those 2 trestles, and I came here, measured from floor to the ceiling, went back to the trestles, measured it, marked it off. I did the same on that side, just there, measured from the floor to the ceiling, went back to the trestle, marked it off on the plywood. I then came back and I remeasured from floor to the ceiling, went back to the trestle and the plywood, checked it, spot on. And you know what? I came back and I did it a 3rd time, but this time I measured from ceiling to floor, went back to the trestle, checked the dimension and the measurement, and it was spot on. Brilliant. Got my spirit level, I marked across the board where I was going to cut, I got the saw out, and I cut the end of the board off. Took it off the trestles, come back here, put it against the wall, and bugger, it was short. How on earth could that happen? So I then measured the board or the ply whilst it was on there, and yeah, it was cut short. So I took it from there again, I put it back on the trestles, and I measured it. And this time it was the right measurement. And I could not figure that out. How on earth could that happen? So I measured from the floor to the ceiling again. Yeah, correct measurement. Back to the trestles and the ply. Correct measurement. I said, that just can't be right. But anyway, I found out that when I put the tape measure onto the plywood, the metal end of the tape measure was a little bit iffy, and it was catching on the ply, and not going to the full stop. So, and that difference was about ½ an inch. And it did that every single time I did it, but only on one side the ply. So yeah, to say the least, that tape measure is now gone, and I bought in a new Recruit, brand new, and no more errors, or at least that's my excuse. So, but that's all right. It's not a worry, because I will be putting some coving up along here. I'm going to get some of the polystyrene coving you can get. That'll fit in there quite nicely, and it will seal all along there as well. So yeah, we're now down to the very end again. Still obviously haven't got the lights in properly. Still got to wait for the consumer unit to be moved, but it's getting there. I hope you can see. Now the ceiling, yes, right, the ceiling. Now this drawing down here, all the way down there, as you can see the amount of screws I've got in there. Well, when I first put it up, what I was finding is, because the ceiling joists aren't wonderful and they are a little bit twisted in places, that, say, this section here would be flat and then this piece here would bow down a little bit. So if I take you back round here, what I've done when I put this back up was that all between the joists on the board I fitted a piece of batten. Now that's just taken from some of those lengths there which I'd used for the old baseboards. So I screwed those onto there, and then when I put the other piece in, I screw it to this side and that pulls it up nice and tight. And I'll obviously have to do the same down here as well. So yeah, the lights are in. Now the original LED bulbs I had, which are still here down the centre lights, which were equivalent to a 35 watt standard bulb, just weren't cutting it for me really, to be honest, weren't bright enough. So I managed to buy 10 50 watt equivalent in LEDs, and that makes a big difference. But the truth will be in the pudding, as they say, when everything's done. And I'm hoping that once I painted all the ceiling white and all the walls white, that'll help reflect a lot of the light and it'll be a lot brighter in here. If it's not, then I'll have to start putting some additional lighting along just under the ceiling, maybe on the wall. I'm not sure what sort of lighting yet, but I'll come up with something. So yeah, that's about it from me at the moment. It doesn't look like I've done a lot. I know it was really disheartening once I'd done it. I thought I'm just back to square one again. But when I think what a difference it's going to make by doing it right, and I wish I'd done that in the first place, but we're learning from all of our errors, and I hope all of you out there who are thinking about doing this are learning at the same time as well, and don't make the same mistakes. So today I hope to get that piece of ply up and that piece of ply in the corner. I'm going to have to take that panel out and that panel out first though, because obviously I'm waiting for the cable to turn up, which needs to go through there and then up and across to there. But I should be able to get that piece up and the end piece. And then later, maybe next weekend, I will get started on that wall. And then once that wall's done, I can get this wall finished. So that's it. You know, we're talking about another 2 months at least for me to get all this done. Heartache, but it's going to be worth it. And what I've learned on this wall, I'm going to get right on that wall. Okay, so thanks for joining me today on this beautiful Saturday morning. I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I'll try and get this video up ready for tonight. If not, it'll be for tomorrow morning. Okay, so take care and hopefully see you next weekend with an even better update. Okay, bye bye.